People keep asking who was stronger, Roger or Luffy. But that question is already wrong, completely wrong. Because Roger and Luffy were never meant to fight each other. They were meant to finish the same story. Same laugh, same madness, same fire, different era. Roger didn't fail. He arrived too early. And Luffy arrived exactly on time. One Piece was never about power. Never. It was always about timing, about when the world is ready to change. That's why Roger and Luffy feel identical, not because they're strong, but because they move the world the same way. They laugh when they should be afraid. They walk forward when everyone else freezes. They say things nobody dares to say. They break systems just by existing. Not by ruling, not by commanding, but by pulling people toward them. Roger didn't conquer the seas, he made them feel alive. And Luffy doesn't want to rule anything. He wants to be free inside it. That's why people follow them. Not because they're kings, but because they remind everyone what it means to be alive. Roger laughed on the execution platform, surrounded by enemies, seconds from death. And he smiled, not because he wasn't afraid, but because he knew this wasn't the end. Now look at Luffy, Marineford, Wano, Kaido, death itself. Every time the world tells him this is it, he laughs. Not because he's crazy, but because he refuses to let the world decide when his story ends. That's the connection. Not destiny, not reincarnation. Will. Roger was not Joy Boy, but he understood Joy Boy. Luffy is not Joy Boy reborn, but he carries the same fire. Roger reached Laugh Tale. He saw the truth, the void century, the broken world, the lie holding everything together. And what did he do? He laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was cruel. Because he realized something horrifying. This story wasn't his to finish. Imagine that. You find the truth of the world and realize you're too early. Not too weak, not too stupid, too early. Roger didn't fail. He became a bridge. He didn't start the dawn, he announced it. He didn't break the system, he exposed it. He didn't free the world, he woke it up. And now, Luffy exists. That's the difference nobody talks about. Roger lived in a world that wasn't ready. The ancient weapons were asleep. Joy Boy's will was scattered. The truth was buried too deep. The world government was untouchable. Roger could shake the world, but he couldn't change it. Luffy was born into collapse. The ancient weapons are waking up. The Gorosei are stepping into the light. Imu is no longer hidden. The lies are cracking. The world is fragile now. That's not coincidence. That's timing. Roger was the spark. Luffy is the fire. Same dream, different world. Roger didn't need to win. He needed to exist, so Luffy could. There's one detail Oda hid in plain sight. One line, one moment that proves Roger and Luffy are the same kind of being. They share the same dream. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally. When Roger said his dream, people laughed. Some were confused, some were shocked, some were silent. When Luffy said his dream, people reacted the exact same way. Not similar, not close, identical. That is not coincidence. That is Oda screaming at us. Whatever that dream is, it's not about becoming Pirate King. It's not about ruling. It's not about power. It's something so insane, so pure, so impossible, that only someone like Roger could say it, and only someone like Luffy could repeat it. And that's why Shanks mattered. Shanks heard Roger's dream. Shanks saw Roger die. Shanks carried that will for decades. Then he met Luffy, and Luffy said the same words, the same dream. Not similar, not inspired, the same. That's when Shanks knew. Not he's strong, not he has potential, but this is him. Not Roger reborn, but Roger continued. Roger was a question. Luffy is the answer. And here's what people don't understand. Roger and Luffy don't change the world by force. They change it by existing. They don't conquer people. They awaken them. They don't command loyalty. They unlock it. They don't build armies. They create belief. Look at Roger's crew. Look at Luffy's crew. Not soldiers, not followers. Family. People who would die for them. Not because they're ordered to, but because they want to. That's not leadership. That's gravity. They pull people into motion, and this is where the sun imagery matters. Roger was called the man who turned the world upside down, but he was a sunset. Beautiful, powerful, but fading. Luffy is not a sunset. He's a sunrise. Blinding, chaotic, unstoppable. Roger ended an age. Luffy will begin one. That's why the dawn of the world isn't poetic. It's literal. Roger couldn't bring the dawn. He could only announce it. Luffy is the dawn. Not because he's chosen, but because he's ready. Roger reached the truth. Luffy will force the world to face it. Roger found the answer. Luffy will make it unavoidable. That's the difference. Roger discovered. Luffy will collide. And here's the part that hurts. Roger knew. He knew the world wasn't ready. He knew he was too early. He knew he would never see the dawn. And instead of breaking, he laughed. Because that's who he was. And that's why Luffy laughs too. Not because nothing matters, but because everything does. They laugh in the face of endings, because they are beginnings. Roger didn't lose his era. He completed it. And Luffy will complete the story. Roger wasn't meant to finish the story. He was meant to start it. Not with power, not with conquest, but with a question. A question only one person in the future could answer. That person is Luffy. Not because he is chosen, not because he is special, not because of prophecy, but because when the world breaks, he laughs. And when the world tells him to stop, he walks forward. And when the world says this is impossible, he does it anyway. Roger was the dreamer of a broken world. Luffy is the dreamer of a world ready to change. Same soul, same fire, same dream. Different era. Roger didn't fail. He passed the torch. And Luffy is the flame. Same dream, different time. And this time, the world is ready.